What is up, everybody? Welcome to Talking Ball, y'all. I'm Cass Hargis. That's Lance Lacoste, and Jason Dewey will be joining us here shortly as we preview Week 9 of the LHSAA football season. We finally started to get some cool weather. And Lance, I know we talked earlier today about how good this slate of games is, but I don't know if I remember as many games as what we've got this week that have this, not just the stakes, but the teams playing in it.
Yeah, so many good ones. We got some undefeated teams playing against each other. We got a crazy number of crosstown rivals going up against each other. I mean, the list of games as I was looking through. I mean, one of the ones I'm most excited about was the Shaw Bell Chase when that's down 10 games deep, I think, because there's so many good matchups. So
you
it's
just
crazy.
Overlooked that one. Yeah, no, it is, and it is. I guess now, Week 9 has kind of turned into the rivalry week. It seems like. And then, like you said, the undefeated teams we got playing. There are 16 undefeated teams left in the state in all divisions. 2 games this week match undefeated teams, so we will have at minimum 14 undefeated teams left when we move on to Week 10. But plenty at stake, not just in district, but power rankings and playoff positioning. All that starts to come into focus. And let's start with the biggest game in the state, the biggest game maybe in the Southeast region. Carr and Curtis will play on Friday night at the Shrine on Airline. A few years back when Carr joined the Catholic League after Curtis was in, I think this is the type of matchup everyone had in mind when these two played in the district.
Yeah, Curtis has done a great job taking care of business. Their schedule plays out in kind of a weird way where they still have to play Carr and St. Aug to close out the season, though. So it's certainly their 2 toughest games are ahead. But I think this one all comes down to whether or not Curtis can run the football. The offensive line has got to be fantastic this week. London Paget's got to make all the right reads and just play a clean football game from the quarterback position. I feel like this game's going to go one of 2 ways, which is going to be Curtis is able to run the football and able to do what they want to do and control the clock. Or if they cannot control the clock, they cannot run the football, and it turns into a bunch of 3-and-outs, I think this one could get ugly. We've seen Carr do it to so many teams over the course of the season.
They have. And looking back at this series, going back 3 years to 2022, you would think when these two teams meet that it would be, instant classics, one-possession games. Last year, Carr won 35-14. In 2023, Curtis won 41-7, and in 2022, Carr won 38-6. So the last 3 games really haven't been close. I think this one will be. I know it's easy to say that, but you said it. I think London Paget may be the key to this game because if he can not just control the football in a time possession, but with the athletes Carr has in the box, he's going to have to make plays in the air. And if he can do that and keep this Carr defense honest, which they come in giving up only 8.3 points a game, that's going to be Curtis's best chance. I think that if this turns into a track meet, I think that favors Carr. But Curtis is very explosive too. But I think London Paget, it's funny to say about a Curtis team, but I think their quarterback's going to be the key throwing the football.
This Carr team has it's so easy to look at this offense with all these guys and be like, man, their offense has, John Johnson at quarterback, and you got their running back has really done a phenomenal job in Trey Garrison. But guys, their front 7 is so fast, right? Romeo Brown is a guy who kind of might get overlooked at times because you've got, such a huge playmaker in Richard Anderson, who I would argue is probably the top player in the state. He's just such a beast. He can take up multiple blockers. Their entire secondary is made up of Division I guys. They're unbelievable. The interesting matchup has to be this Curtis offense going against this Carr defense, though, because the last time I remember Carr losing, and I could be wrong on this, but it was a playoff game that I called with Coach Salt on BSN, and I remember it was a tight game. A few fluky things happen, but you have to remember Curtis runs a similar slowed down option style offense that Acadiana does. And I remember leaving the game, and I overheard fans like, man, we just can't beat those veer teams. We can't beat those slow down teams. And that's the big question, right? Like Paget has been so good, and he hasn't passed the ball a ton, but he's been really effective when he has. And, they've got so many backs in that backfield that can move the football. Their defense has been really solid. I don't know if anybody can stop this Carr offense, but can they slow them down enough? And can they win? And Lance knows what I'm going to say. Can they win second down? Because they really struggled against Holy Cross to win second down, and that threw their entire pacing for the game off. So can they win second down, keep their offense on the field, and that might determine if they win this game or not.
Yeah, and you mentioned the offense of Curtis and the style that they run, and with the veer and the reading of the defensive linemen and even the backers. You can do that, and that's all well and good. But when you're facing a front seven like this, that's going to be difficult. Like, can Carr just out-act? Like, if we're reading the end, if we're not going to block him, can he just get to the quarterback before he can make a decision? And then on the Carr side, you've got to stay, gap sound. You've got to stay with your responsibilities. Nothing that they don't already know. But that is going to be interesting because that offense can kind of neutralize the speed and athleticism of Carr. Or it could work to Carr's advantage. Yeah, that's going to be interesting to see. I think also the key here, Curtis, since the 1970s, since they've been doing this, it's been running the football, it's been defense, but they hang their hat on special teams. And if they can make a play on special teams, whether it's a big return or a fake punt, a block punt, or just simply winning the field position battle, that could go a long way in determining who wins this game.
Great point.
Yeah, I agree.
The other undefeated team, two undefeated teams playing each other up in the northern part of the state. Loyola Prep travels to North DeSoto. Both teams come in at 8-0. Both teams are 5-0 in district. North DeSoto they had a big win in week 3 against West Monroe, and they have not slowed down since. They've kind of rolled since then. Loyola Prep. This Loyola Prep offense led by Bryce Restovich is explosive. They're efficient. They come in averaging 58 points a game. Can they go to North DeSoto and put up points? And the last 2 years, looking back at this series, North DeSoto has won 49-13 and 55-3. So I don't know if that's just a matchup issue, if Loyola wasn't, what they are now, but that stood out to me. So if Loyola Prep can get over that and go play football, this has a chance to be a really good game.
It feels like a lot for a huge opportunity for Loyola Prep to really prove a point here for those reasons you said. Early in the season, we were watching this North DeSoto team pretty closely. They went and proved themselves against West Monroe. I'm not sure if we've seen a nearly notable victory like that out of Loyola Prep this year. So for those reasons, a lot for these guys to prove. You said it. The kid, Bryce Restovich, his numbers are disgusting. He's completing 74% of his passes with over or around 200 passing attempts. It's crazy. 37 touchdowns to 5 interceptions. I mean, that's
nuts.
Unbelievable. Unbelievable numbers. On the other side, the future of the Northwestern State Demons, Luke Delafield. He's putting up similar numbers, not quite as impressive, but he's also putting up great numbers. And so I think the key here, I think, is the best stat is Loyola Prep forces a lot of turnovers, and so it's very important for North DeSoto if they're gonna. I guess if it feels like if Loyola Prep's gonna pull off this one, it could be because they won the turnover battle.
Big matchup, right? 14.8 points for this defense for North DeSoto that they're giving up per game, while they're still scoring 51 a game. And you look on the other side, this offensive Loyola Prep, the Flyers average is 58 points. And they spread the ball around. 2 weeks ago, 4 of the top 27 wide receivers in the state, according to Max Preps, came from this team. Big target, Ty Walsworth, 11 touchdowns, over 600 yards receiving. But of course, I got to talk about my guy Bryce Restovich. When I started kind of going on my social media tear, he's one of the first guys I kind of spotted, and I was like, man, this kid's really impressive. And, he's, really gracious kid, reached out to me personally, said, thank you for covering the team. And I got to dig into his family. I asked him, guys, this kid comes from a lineage of athletes. Both of his parents played at Stephen F. Alston. His cousin plays for soccer for Notre Dame and Team USA. He had 2 cousins get drafted in baseball and play. So this guy's an athlete, and he comes from a legacy of athletes, and he proves it week in and week out. Alex Mitchell, for this team defensively, turnover machine, constantly making plays for this team. 11 TFLs, 4 sacks, 4 interceptions, 3 forced fumbles, 2 fumble recoveries. And Thomas, Golsey as well, 4 interceptions. But to your point, guys, this defense has 29 takeaways. Like they make plays defensively, and while they're giving up 20 points per game, if you're forcing turnovers, what does it matter? Now the other side of the ball, North DeSoto, you mentioned Luke Delafield, but this offensive line, 3 All-State guys. Like they are a really solid unit. They went toe-to-toe with West Monroe earlier this year. Kenny Thomas, a really talented receiver, went down for a little bit, but he's a Louisiana Tech commit. Really talented guy, can turn on the Jets. But Braylon Layton steps in, guys, 946 yards and 19 touchdowns. So they've got a really solid offense. Alex Simpson on the defensive front for them is a really big playmaker. I'm fascinated by this matchup because of what you said. Loyola Prep, I believe, guys, was a 2A program before they jumped up to 4A. So this is a big jump, and it looks like numbers-wise, as of now, they're going to drop down to 3A. So this is a big opportunity for them to prove they can hang with the big boys because North DeSoto is a team we talked about preseason. I said they're one of my favorites to be in the Superdome. So really interesting matchup. I'm really excited to see this one play out on Friday night.
North DeSoto might own and one of the, if not the most impressive victory all season long, going to West Monroe and winning. And outside of that game, that was an 11-point game. None of their other games were close. So they have rolled. And Loyola, while they didn't play a team the caliber of West Monroe, they come in 8-0. None of their games have been close either. So this is going to be a huge test. It's going to be a great atmosphere up at North DeSoto. Opportunity, I think, for both teams to maybe put up some points, but team that takes care of football is probably going to be the one that wins.
The Griffins taking on the Fighting Snoopies, guys. The Flyers of Loyola Prep. One of the coolest logos in the entire state.
If I'm Loyola Prep, I know they're on the road, so I'm assuming they'll be in white jerseys. I'm wearing the dark blue pants. Can't wear the baby blue pants.
Good point.
There you go. Down another banger of a matchup down in Lafayette. St. Thomas More and Turlings Catholic. They call this the Holy War down in the 3-3-7. St. Thomas More comes in at 6-2. Turlings Catholic is 8-0. Both teams are 4-0 in their district. St. Thomas More lost the first 2 games of the season to Karen Crow and Catholic before coming back to beat Acadiana, and they have rattled off 6 straight wins. Turlings Catholic has rolled all year long, led by quarterback Alex Munoz. For St. Thomas More, you got quarterback Cole Bergeron. That's a team and a program that they win, they put up points, but they're also pretty physical and can run the football. Interesting on this series, Turlings has not won a game in a series since 2015. And there have been close games. I know I was a part of one that went into overtime, and it just seemed like no matter what was going on with Turlings, how good of a year they were having, for whatever reason, St. Thomas More finds a way to beat them. Could this be the year that Turlings Catholic changes that script?
I think as we look at week 9 and the good teams that we're talking about, there's one common theme that you're finding. These teams have great quarterback play and great defenses. You look at Turlings Catholics only giving up 13 points a game. St. Thomas More giving up 19 points a game. I think that's a little deceiving. They're on our show every week because they have played nothing but great opponents since week 1. So I think the 6-2 record versus the 8-0 record, you kind of throw those out the window. I think St. Thomas More has just played a really tough schedule. And so these quarterbacks are unbelievable. Cole Bergeron, a Virginia Tech commit. Everybody knows his name since before the season. He's panning out to have a great season just as expected. And then Alex Munoz on the other side, another guy we've talked about a good bit. 18 touchdowns to 1 interception. I mean, when you play great defense and only give up 13 points a game and your quarterback's putting up those type of efficient numbers, that's pretty tough to beat. So this just feels like one that could really go either way. I mean, these teams feel like mirror images of each other for so many reasons. Just hard to know how this one will play out.
And Turlings has answered the bell every time. It seems like last week we kind of said, look, they're playing a really big 5A team in East Ascension. We've talked about them before the season started, how, they have a really talented, they have a really talented group that has been finding ways to win, and Turlings handled them. They manhandled them, guys, and That's a big football team. That's a physical football team of East Ascension. So for Turlings Catholic to win it the way they did was really impressive. St. Thomas More, to you guys' point, look, they like to spread the ball around as well. Jared Koister has really been a big playmaker for them, as well as Christian Bro, who's a second-team All-State receiver. He's kind of their deep guy. Really, he can turn on the jets and make plays. That Turlings Catholic defense versus this offense, it really has piqued my interest. You guys mentioned only 13 points a game for this Rebels defense being given up a year. St. Thomas More, they can pass it, they can run it, they can mix it up and find ways to score that you wouldn't expect defensively. So for Turlings Catholic, Ken Munoz continue to power forward with this offense and continue rolling the way that they have, because they've really been impressive, including that massive win just a week ago against East Ascension.
Yeah, and I'm wondering if, and I'm telling just because I was a part of it and see, like, there's just something in this matchup, and I don't know if it's a mental block with like, I don't know what it is, but like weird stuff happens and STM finds a way to win. I'm wondering if in Coach Kerrville's first year back at Turlings, he just completely flips the script. Like, he's coming in there with a brand new attitude. There's a new energy. There's a new excitement with that program. Like, can they just go out there with the attitude like we're just going to go play, and we're going to go out there and we're going to play hard. We're going to execute, and we're going to go win the football game. But if they can get over, I'm telling you, I can't explain it. I'm just telling you that at some point it becomes a real thing. Like, it's just a mental block. You just can't get over that hump. So that's going to be interesting. And I'm telling you, these two schools, these two teams, they don't like each other. It's going to be a tremendous atmosphere. Game is being played at Turlings. The speakers are going to be turned up to 11. It's going to be a raucous environment in Lafayette.
Yeah, don't forget, guys, follow, like, share, subscribe. Again, we appreciate those of you who are watching. But again, please continue to help us grow it. We've been having a ton. I don't know if these guys, they might regret having invited me on after the season ends, but I've really been enjoying our time together.
No, this has been a blast. This has been awesome. And then tonight, the games that we get to talk about are, man, it
gets
just
better
keep
every
coming.
week, guys. It seems like we're like, man, this week. Remember early in the season, we were like, man, the early games are just bangers, top to bottom. And then as we continue, last week was massive, and this week is just every game. It seems like we have like 22 listed, but only like 10 we're going to try to highlight. But you can go on and on and on with this week's list of games.
We'll be on here as long as that baseball game was played last night, 6 hours and 39 minutes. So just hop on for the ride. Elsewhere we'll stay in Lafayette. This is a non-district game. LCA, Lafayette Christian Knights, host Evangel. Both teams come in at 7-1. Evangel 7-0 in district. Lafayette Christian is 3-0 in district. This Lafayette Christian team, aside from the one weird loss at Shaw, maybe the most impressive resume of any team in the state. And they get to host an Evangel team that comes in with one of the best quarterbacks in the country, and Pop Houston, and an Evangel offense that lights up the scoreboard. The amount of talent, skill talent that's going to be on the field in Lafayette on this Friday night between these two teams, man, it's going to be unbelievable. Braylon Walker at quarterback for LCA. You got Caden Bellard at running back for LCA, with Braden Allen at receiver, and then Pop Houston and his cast of characters at Evangel. I think there's a potential for a lot of points to be scored in this game.
Yeah, shout out to these coaches for scheduling this non-district game, week 9. This is super rare to see some type of matchup like this. Evangel traveling all the way to Lafayette. There's always a little bit of a concern there when you travel like that. But yeah, what a great matchup to see in a week 9. But yeah, I think obviously two of the best quarterbacks in Louisiana. Everybody knows that. I think you go in maybe a little, as a coach, a little concerned of like, you don't want these two quarterbacks to feel like they are head-to-head and have any kind of extra pressure on them. And so with that said, I think it really comes down to takeaways in the secondary. Evangel, underrated stat. They've taken the ball away a lot in the secondary. Lafayette Christian's a little banged up on their side. Anytime you're, especially a smaller school, smaller roster, if you got some injuries, that's not going to help you either. But this is a heck of a matchup, and I think if I'm on either side, if I win the coin toss, I'm taking the ball. I don't want to fall behind at any point in this game and put any more pressure on my quarterback. And so I would take the ball, try to start fast, get a lead, and take it from there. But, yeah, what a test for these secondaries. Whichever secondary comes up with the more plays, I think wins this game.
The interesting matchup is going to be, I mean, you can talk about 20 different matchups in this game that are interesting, but the one that's really going to determine this game, I would have to believe, is Evangel's wide receivers taking on this secondary of Lafayette Christian. Now, what's important to note is that Lafayette Christian has been banged up. They lost Sky Ryan earlier in the year. They're playing, of course, this has been for a few weeks now, so they've kind of got some experience under their belt. However, these Evangel receivers, right? Everybody talks about Pop Houston, and rightfully so. Dude has 3,500 total yards combined, 35 touchdowns through the air, 8 touchdowns on the ground. But really, John Casey, the Louisiana Tech commit, with 716 yards and 19 touchdowns. DeMarcus Evans is another wide receiver who can make big plays for them. And Charlie Abraham, who's a guy who has 845 yards receiving and a bunch of touchdowns as well. Like these guys play really well together. And we talk about Lafayette Christian other than one slip up. Evangel goes on the road and plays Neville in week 1. And they have won 7 straight wins since that game. And I think we all watched at least bits and pieces of it. And guys, it wasn't the cleanest football game. So no. I think Evangel has cleaned a lot up since then. I'm a big Damari Drake guy for Evangel, who runs the football extremely well. But again, I would argue is one of the best linebackers in the state. And on the other side, like you said, Braylon Walker slings the ball around really well. He has Braden Allen to throw to, who's been really impressive. I know Cass is a big Caden Bellard fan, and rightfully so. He's been their big guy, but their defense has some guys too that can play ball. So, however, like I said, that banged up secondary, or I should say that now kind of experienced secondary, having grown through the season, but I think that ultimately that's going to determine the game. Can Lafayette Christian secondary limit that big playability and just limit these guys at receiver from popping one over the top? Because they're going to get some touches. They're going to make some plays in space, but you just can't allow those big plays over the top.
Yeah, these two teams played last year too, up at Evangel. Evangel won 56-42. I wouldn't be shocked to see a similar score. And I think if you're, like Lance said, you want to try to get a lead, the one blemish LCA has on their record, Shaw got a lead. LCA turned the ball over 7 times. Walker threw 6 interceptions. Like, can Evangel get out to a fast start to put pressure on that LCA offense? I think that could be a key to this game. But that's going to be, this game. You're right. Kudos to these teams for scheduling it, because on Evangel's end of it, they have Parkway next week. So that's like, it's not like they're easing into anything. Like, they're going LCA out of district, and then they're jumping right back into, is that the only Division I non-select undefeated team, Parkway, right next week. So good for them for doing that.
But one more thing I want to add, though, when you talk about Braylon Walker, he has 6 interceptions on the year. Yeah. So the only game that he threw an interception in was one football game, and he just so happened to throw 6. He has thrown no interceptions in 7 other games. So that'll be interesting to see, too. Can this Evangel secondary that, has forced some turnovers, can they put some pressure on him and force him to make some mistakes?
Yep, and just like in all the other big-time matchups that we've talked about, not just tonight but this year, team that takes care of the ball the best is probably going to be the team that wins. But I would expect this one to be pretty high scoring. In the Baton Rouge area, the defending Division I non-select state champs Central travel to Zachary. Central comes in at 6-2, 2-1 in district. Zachary is 6-1, 2-1 in district. Zachary's only loss is that Week 7 loss to Liberty that seems to be more and more as we get further away from it to be an outlier in their season. The Central team, as talented as they are on defense, and we've talked about it before on this show, last week they played that Liberty team that beat Zachary and held them to 14 points. So maybe they're starting to figure something out, very similar to what they did last year, start playing their best ball late in the year. Central won 14-3 last year. Zachary won the previous 2 matchups, 35-28 and 42-28. So these two teams, no strangers to each other. It's going to be a great atmosphere again at Zachary. Can Central kind of keep this thing rolling and build some momentum for their playoff run?
Yeah, I agree. I think, we haven't it feels like we haven't seen the best of either one of these football teams yet. They've been a little bit up and down. Probably, I would bet both of these stats feel like they've underperformed a little bit. But at the end of the day, we're in week 9. Dust is settled, and both of these teams are 6-2 and 6-1. They'll be in the playoffs, and they still have a chance to win their district, right? So it's all about playing well at the right time, right? And so excited to see how these teams kind of play this one out and build some momentum as they continue moving towards the playoffs. A lot of we talk about every week. A lot of talent on that defensive side for Central. Scott Smith, the Houston commit. Jermichael Garrett, the Ole Miss commit. So a lot of talent on that side of the ball. They played well. Feels like they had their best performance last week. Yep. And so let's see if this defense continues playing well. A lot of talent on the Zachary side at receiver and interior offensive line as well. So feels like that's what the best matchup is here. That Central defense continuing to try to put together that brand that they created last year. Can they be as dominant this year as they go into the playoffs?
And that Central defense is going to have to find a way to slow down Kristen Brooks, the 6'4", 180 receiver for this Broncos football team. He's again, big play guy. So they're going to have to find a way to limit him. This Zachary defense has some guys to try and slow down this Central offense. They're averaging 38 points a game offensively, but really it feels like they can pop off at any given moment. Tristan Rose, a guy in that Central backfield, you can kind of move him around. He can make big plays for that offense as well. And Marcus Watson has been a big play receiver for them. On the other side of the football, for this Zachary team, Dylan Shellmeyer, linebacker that's committed to Southeastern, he goes and gets it. Like he's a very instinctual player, can read the play well. Of course, I think when you look at that 6-1 record and you count Zachary, I mean, not Zachary, Liberty, when you look at that loss, but the bottom line is it was a lapse. And you're not going to see that too often from Zachary. You know they're going to come fired up with an opportunity to win 4-5A. And this is not an easy – we don't highlight this district as much as others, but this is a really pretty solid district as well. And both these teams would love to come out with a victory and prime themselves up to win their district.
Yeah, speaking of the district, Zachary's closing stretch. They got Central this week, and then they go Catholic High next week. So Zachary, outside of themselves, ends the district year with two of the better teams in that district. Going into the game on Friday night as well, Zachary is at 4 in the power rankings. You want to try to stay in that top 4 to host that semifinal game. So they're playing for a lot. Central's at 9 with an opportunity to move up as that stuff starts to get a little clear as we head to the end of the season. In District 8 5A, Hahnville hosts Destrehan. This is a game that for the better part of, our childhood, speaking maybe for me and Lance, like this was the game of the year. This was it, and they always seem to play maybe earlier in the season, like week 5, week 6 for whatever reason. They're playing week 9. Destrehan comes in at 6-2. Hahnville is at 7-1. This Hahnville team, again, really haven't talked a lot about them. Their offense is averaging over 40 points a game. Their defense is giving up only 15 points a game. Landon Teague, their quarterback, last week threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns. 2 weeks prior to that combined, he threw for 3 touchdowns as well. So he's going to be a key to this team. Jackson Fields for Destrehan on the other side, though. Every time I watch him, I like him more and more. It's the way he commands the offense. It kind of just runs the show for an extremely talented Destrehan offense.
This will be the best atmosphere of the weekend, I believe. Great crowd, packed house out there in the Bayou region, especially being at Hahnville. It's going to be a great one. Friday Night Football will be popping off the screen. Really cool atmosphere. But anyway, yeah, I think you kind of hit on it. Hahnville, it's hard to really know how good they are. They haven't played a super tough schedule just yet, but we're going to find out as they play Destrehan at home. This their obviously biggest game of the season to really prove what they got going on. But Landon Teague, the quarterback for Hahnville, he's a kid I've known since he's probably about 9 or 10 years old coming through our program. And so he's had just an unbelievable season. He started for him last year as a sophomore. Now he's a junior quarterback. He's been great really all throughout the year. He doesn't turn the ball over, makes all the plays he needs to make. And so, if he can keep that rolling, he'll give these guys certainly have a chance against Destrehan. We talk about that sharing every week. Love Jackson Fields, their offense that's so balanced. They can run the football. They can throw the football. They got weapons on the outside. And so huge challenge here, I feel like, for Hornville. But in a rivalry like this, I mean, these guys, they all know each other. They're not afraid of anything. And when you're at home, and if Hornville can keep this thing close, they'll have a chance in the end.
And, Stephen talked about the best athlete on the field, right, which is Jabari Mack. Jabari Mack, the LSU commitment at wide receiver. But as we saw earlier in this year, just as dangerous, if not better, as a cornerback or defensive back. Against Catholic early in the season, he jumps in front of a ball and takes it 99 yards. He's tough to stop by himself. Then you add to it Jalen Ash and Kai Williams. Oh, by the way, and you have Dabney in the I'll say his first name as well. You have Malachi Dabney in the backfield as well, who's been tearing it up on the season. It's a very dynamic offense to stop. I think a lot of it's going to come down to up front. Rasan Ross, who's a defensive end, kind of an edge guy, transferred from Rummel. He's a big playmaker for this defense for Hornville. He's going to have to step up, as well as another Southeastern commit in Frederick Downing, the 6'4", 200-pound defensive lineman. 290-pound defensive lineman for Hornville. You've got to limit something. You're not going to be able to stop it all. You've got to limit something. If you're able to force them to pass the football, at least you know what's coming. Now, is that what you want to be facing every play? Maybe not with those dynamic types of playmakers, but I think this defensive front, you got to take away either the pass or the run and kind of try to make this Deschanel offense predictable. That's the only way I think you can really stop them, is if you know what's coming on specific down.
Yeah, no, that is a good point. And, maybe to a bigger point to this, Lance kind of touched on it, but the rivalry between these two, like Hornville, no matter what, Hornville's kind of had some down years here as of late, but they're back on the upswing. It didn't matter the records these two teams are going to battle. Hornville's not going to be scared. But it also feels like, at least in South Louisiana, high school football's better when these two teams are both at their peak. Like, you think of the early 2000s, late 1990s, like these two teams going at it. It's going to, like Lance said, it's going to be one of the best atmospheres. They love their football down there. They love their schools, and they dislike the other one. So this is going to be a lot of fun down in Hornville.
Look, that's peak River Parish football, right?
Yeah.
That's what I grew up around, and it is much better when they're together. But got to credit Hornville Coach Bourne, the job that he's done there over the past year, and now going on year 2, has been remarkable. Really has turned that program around. I think they were undefeated or had a few losses, not many at least last year, for the large part of that season. So he's done an incredible job going against Coach Marcus Scott at Deschanel. Going to be a fun one.
Yeah, their only loss this year too is to Terrebonne. Week 4, they lost to a really talented Terrebonne team. That is Hornville's only loss. Over here on the North Shore, a big one, which seems like every time they play, this game is big with the district title on the line. In 6-5A, Mandeville travels to St. Paul's. Mandeville, kind of an up and down year. They come in at 5-3. They're 2-1 in district. St. Paul's, I feel like, has just been very steady. They had that tough pre-district schedule. They played Brother Martin close, played U High close, and they just kind of they know who they are, and they're just kind of play into their strength. Running back. Cody Corrales, one of the best running backs in the state. This offense revolves around him. He's coming in. He's got 789 rushing yards on the season. Mandeville on the other end, Crew Calora, true freshman quarterback who stepped in week 2 and has just progressively gotten better, as you would expect as the year has gone on. They lost to Slidell. They lost to Hammond. They blew out Ponchatoula last week. They seem to be playing a little bit better now as the season's gone on. But until otherwise noted, this district runs through St. Paul's, and they've kind of owned that district, and they're looking to continue that. St. Paul's has won 3 straight meetings between these two teams, and St. Paul's looks to continue that in Covington Friday night.
Yeah, St. Paul's has a better record. They've played a stronger schedule. They're older. You already talked about Corrales. They also are very old on defense. They got mostly seniors on the defense as well for St. Paul's. And so for all those reasons, it feels like, St. Paul's would win this football game. But the last time we doubted Mandeville, they beat up Covington out of nowhere, and so this is one of those games where over the years it feels like the team that you feel like is has the upper hand somehow loses. It's just one of those rivalry matchups that's really hard to pick out. You already talked about Kukalora. He's been really impressive for a freshman quarterback. You don't ever want to start a freshman quarterback, but this certainly is a promising situation for Coach Jones to be able to have a freshman quarterback that's already winning some big games and building some confidence. He's going to be great for him in the future. He's finding Luke DeMello out there on the perimeter, another guy kind of new to the scene that's scoring some touchdowns this year as well. So I think this is going to be a great game. Like this is one of those ones that it's just one of those rivalries that it's hard to figure out sometimes why teams come away with a victory in this one.
I think it's safe to say, right, the strength of this Skipper's Ball Club has been Kalora, the emergence of the freshman coming into play. Look, he's going to have a tough night ahead of him. This is a really talented St. Paul's defense. Of course, Dylan Post has been their all-world guy, all-state, all-district defensive MVP. Brett West as well at linebacker. They can really get after it. But look, they got younger guys, and they have Aiden Brooks in the secondary, who's committed to Trinity, playing at the safety spot. But Roderick Payne and Christian Martin, two younger guys that have offers to Georgia State at the moment, they can go out and play football too. They can go make plays and put some pressure on this passing attack for Mandeville. So I think really a big question is, can Mandeville come in and find a way to run the football or find a way in that short to intermediate passing to kind of make up for maybe what might be a difficult night running the football. So if you're St. Paul's, you're clearly going to try to limit the passing ability for Mandeville. But if you are Mandeville, you got to find a way to either run the football effectively and efficiently, or you have to make sure you are having that short pass game act as kind of a segue into a run game.
Yeah, and this sound like a broken record. They got to take care of the football too. They're going to have to take care of the football, not try to force anything. I think this might be the type of game where a punt's not a bad thing. A punt's not a bad play. Just kind of keep it close as long as you can. Going back to last year when these two teams played, Mandeville up to the point they played last year had one loss, looked to clearly be the better team. And then the week before they play St. Paul's, they lose Nate Shepard to I think a broken leg. And then St. Paul's ends up winning that game. So it kind of just feels like lately anything that can go wrong in this game for Mandeville kind of does. See if they could get that freshman to kind of flip the script and go take it to St. Paul's on Friday night. Also in the Baton Rouge area, U-High host Madison Prep. U-High comes in at 6-2, 4-0 in district. Madison Prep 7-1, 4-0 in district. This is an extremely athletic Madison Prep team. They come in, their only loss this year is to Southside in week 3. They have 3 shutouts. They have won their last 2 games by a combined score of 113-0. And it's a U-High team who comes in that record at 6-2. Their 2 losses are to Rummel and to Catholic of Baton Rouge. Like, that's nothing to shake your head at. They have wins over St. Paul's also in the year. So this schedule that U-High plays has them ready for this one. Extremely talented teams on both sides of the ball. Madison Prep, very athletic. U-High, obviously, Lamar Brown, best player in the country. He I don't know if y'all saw, he was shown some love by the Texas A&M fans at the game last Saturday in Death Valley. So that was it was funny to see. But yeah, this is going to be a good one for sure.
If there's any smaller schools that have the athletes to match up with ULab, we know it's Madison Prep, right? And so they definitely can match up physically as well as speed-wise. And I think you kind of hit on it there, but ULab, they're 6-2, but they have played a brutal schedule for a 3A school. It feels like they've probably are the more battle-tested team coming into this matchup, some more impressive wins. But the numbers all play out super similar, where Madison Prep is averaging 46 points a game, giving up 14 a game. ULab scoring 42 points a game, giving up 14 points a game. So just seems like a very even matchup. How about the kid Landon Johnson here? He plays quarterback, he plays wide receiver, he plays defensive back. They must play with like more than one football to be able to do all that, right? I mean, but he has he's got passing, he's got 11 passing touchdowns, two rushing touchdowns, 5 receiving touchdowns, and leads the team with 3 interceptions. So
Bugs Bunny. He's like Bugs Bunny.
Yeah, something tells me Landon Johnson's going to have a monstrous game for Madison Prep to win this one.
Yeah, well, he's able to do that because you do have – they'll play 2 quarterbacks at times. And the other guy is Dylan Reed, who's a guy who transferred from out in this area. He kind of goes in, 10 touchdowns on the season passing as well. Both guys combined have only thrown for 3 interceptions. I think, Javen Holmes, a Houston commit, all-state guy, there's a reason why this team just has guys all over the field. Like, they definitely do have the athletes that could possibly match up. John Profit, 840 yards and 7 touchdowns running the football for this Madison Prep offense. This defense has 29 sacks coming into this game, and they're going to be put to the test, right? Like, there's no denying it. 2 of those guys, again, Ryan Varese, defensive end / middle linebacker for this team, has been a big playmaker, along with Cannon Walker, who has 13 TFLs, 7.5 sacks, and an interception on the year. But on the other side of the football, you have Lamar Brown up front. You have Mason Smith, who do an excellent job protecting their quarterback, Ethan McGlynn. And running the football, Sage Ingram has gone crazy. Sage Ingram had a 250-yard game last week. He can run the football really well. Corbin Odell also gets his touches in time. Lawson Dixon is the wide receiver there who's really been getting some attention over the course of this season. He's an incredible playmaker. The interesting thing coming into this game, can Madison Prep continue to apply pressure when you're playing this type of offensive line against U-High? That we can say, like, you have one of the best players, if not the best player in the country, along with a really talented guy in Mason Smith and Lamar Brown, both of them. I'm a piggyback off what Cass has been saying. Madison Prep's turnover margin is -1. So you can't really afford to turn the ball over in a game like this against an offense like this in U-High that can spread the football around. There's so many guys. Can Madison Prep hold on to the football, and will they be able to apply pressure to McGlynn based off this offensive line play of U-High? That's what the game is going to come down to.
Yeah, and the talent on this U-High team is borderline ridiculous for what that program is. It's impressive to see. This is a Madison Prep team that was 8 yards away from playing in the Superdome last year. They went down to Shaw in the semifinals, lost by 7. I don't remember if it was in overtime or the end of the 4th quarter, but they had the ball inside the 10-yard line. Shaw had to come up with a stop to get it. So, while they're not, their schedule is nothing like U-High's was this year. It is a program and a team that is used to winning. So that's going to be interesting to see in Baton Rouge. And these 2 teams too, they're also, as we start looking at some power ratings, Madison Prep's the 4 seed in as it stands right now in Division II Select, and U-High is the 6 seed. So again, you want to try to get in that top 4 to host the semifinals. This game's going to go a long way to determining that. Now we go to U-High's former offensive coordinator in New Orleans, but the Newman Greenies and Coach Aaron Weiss host Country Day. Newman 4-2, 2-0 in district. Country Day is 5-3, 2-1 in district. Newman, and Lance kind of hit it on the head early in the season. You kind of saw them, or you could see them maybe struggle out of the gate early, just with so many new pieces, moving parts, and it seems like they've kind of steadied the ship. They figured out some stuff offensively. Jake Randall kind of does it all for him. He is one of the most, I hate to call him underrated, but underrated players, not just in the city, but maybe in the state. This wide receiver group for Newman is also really good. It's Hendricks Hill, Charles Wilson, who's a really good baseball player, and George Luke. Those 3 receivers are explosive. They're fast. They're physical. This is a Newman team that if they can continue to progress like they are, they've got a chance to make a deep run in the playoffs.
Yeah, Newman started 0-2. I believe that it was St. Charles Catholic and Riverside with their first 2 losses. Those have panned out to be pretty quality losses. Mm-hmm. And it was really just a matter of new coach, new quarterback. How do we utilize all these guys? Like you said, they're not lacking weapons, they're not lacking ball players. They just didn't have a traditional quarterback, and so they went with Jake Randall, and Jake Randall has gotten better from week to week. He is, I watched him week 2. He really struggled to throw the football and get dribble side. They had a bye by week 4. He was like a different kid back there. And as you said, very underrated talent in our city as well as in our state. He is without a question one of the best ball carriers that you'll see. He's going to Tulane for a reason. Super physical, super strong, and he can fly. I mean, when he breaks away, I mean, he takes off and leaves guys in his dust. And so, very, very impressive player, as well as some of those receivers you mentioned. And Newman has dominated this rivalry, I think, since 2020. I don't know if you could look that one up. I think 2020 was the last time that Country Day won this one. And it's been dominant victories from Newman since then. But this Country Day team is not the same old Country Day team, and you can see it right away because they have last names on their roster such as McAllister and Brewer. And so you can Google those guys if you need to know what I'm talking about. But they got some bloodlines all of a sudden over there, as well as their quarterback. Hudson Wright's done a great job. But, Cass, the main thing I'm hoping to see in this game, I hope one of them wear some form of black pants or black jerseys. Both of them have really good looks when they go to, like, their Country Day black pants or Newman black jerseys.
Yeah. Both teams have good colors for good uniforms.
Yeah,
they work. Yep. Mm-hmm.
When you look at this Country Day team, they've really been able to throw the football really well for obvious reasons, and both they're legacy athlete guys, but really they're both excellent basketball players for that Country Day squad, and being able to have them on the football field when you can go up and grab the football. Have y'all seen some of the plays that Curtis McAllister's made over the year, man?
I got to see it up close in person in the Jamboree.
Yeah, he goes up, man. He's a baller. He finds a way to make plays and come down with them. But Jake Randall is, again, he's another guy that just is a playmaker. Like I love his grittiness. Like he's been, whatever his team needs him to do, he's going to do. And they have a lot of talent around him. I think Newman is finding a way offensively to get the job done. Like they've got guys they can spread the ball around to. I think the big key for Newman is to make sure you're focusing on this Country Day football team. It's very easy. I know you got to watch this game last year, Lance. It's very easy to kind of peek your head over and look at South Plaquemine coming up next week. That's a big football game. Not to mention Newman had one bye week, and there was a game due to a school. I can't remember if it was shut down or if they just dropped football. They only played 6 football games. Mm-hmm. So it could mean they're a little bit more fresh. It could also mean that they have a few more things to iron out. So we don't know, but you can't overlook this Country Day football team because they can score and they can score in bunches. But Newman's got guys on the perimeter that can get the job done too. Plus, I really like the big guy up front for this Greenies football team, Henry Jackson, Cornell commit. He's a really big physical player, and linebacker sophomore, 6 foot 190, guy who plays basketball. AJ Yunusa, I got to watch him play both. He's really athletic. Yeah. I mean, he flies to the football. He plays sideline to sideline. He can do it all. I mean, he's a point guard for the basketball team. He's an exceptional athlete. So this would be a really fun one to watch. Two teams that are really familiar with each other.
Yeah, and that is an interesting point on the schedule for Newman. I believe that's the second year in a row that they've had 2 bye weeks. I think last year they had a scheduled bye week and then a hurricane wiped out the game with Riverside, and then this year 2 bye weeks as well. So interesting down there in uptown New Orleans. Let's go all the way. Well, not all the way. Let's go further north in the state up to our favorite 2-5A. District 2-5A, where West Monroe Rebels are hosting the Neville Tigers. West Monroe comes in at 7-1, 3-0 in district. Neville is 5-3, 2-1 in district. We had Coach Collins on with us on Sunday to kind of talk about not just their game last week with Ouachita, in which they won by a point, but just their season as a whole. And he talked about how they were a little bit banged up early on, and they're still kind of a little bit banged up, but they play hard. Their loss to Ruston was, they were up by, I think at one point 23 points. Ruston gets a momentum and comes and wins. They were up on St. Thomas More late in the fourth quarter. St. Thomas More recovers an onside kick, they come back and win that game. And then they played Oak Grove, Mississippi. That was the one game that they really probably got physically beaten. But outside of that, this Neville team with Parker Robinson at quarterback, Zealand Young at receiver, and Jamarian Robertson at running back, man, they are really good. But this West Monroe Rebels team, we've said it before, we'll keep saying it. I think we can say that they're back, to whatever we think that is. I think that's what they are. They're back. Coach Deiser has his program rolling. Christian Ponte, their running back, he has been impressive all year long. Defensively, they're giving up 21 points a game. The fact that they get this game at home, I think, is going to be huge, because that is when at its peak, maybe the best atmosphere in the state of Louisiana and the toughest place to play. Interesting, these two teams, this is the second year that they're in the district. From what Coach Collins was saying, next year I don't think they will be in the same district. They've played last year. Neville won 27-14. They hadn't played before that until 2021. Neville won that game as well. So Neville's won 2 straight in this series. They traveled to West Monroe on Friday night.
Yeah, so one thing's for sure, Neville's not going to be afraid of going to West Monroe and pulling off a victory. You got to think about Neville just came off of such an emotional win over Washita, and now they got to figure out how to get their heads back on straight to be prepared for a really good West Monroe team. You heard Coach Collins talk about it. Every week is just such a different type of – not only is it a tough challenge, but it's a completely different challenge in this district. You go from Washita, where they had athletes all over the place running around, to West Monroe, who is, as he said, old school West Monroe, run it down your throat with Christian Ponte, And so it's really the challenge of this week for Neville seems like just a huge challenge. But, certainly Coach Collins is the right guy to get these guys prepared. And, hey, great win last week. Got to forget about it. Time to go to West Monroe Rebels and keep this thing rolling, right?
This Neville defense at times has played really lights out, and they can do, and the credit to Coach Collins and his staff, they really do things. They can run some exotic stunts, blitzes. They do a good job mixing things up. It's about putting it together for 4 quarters. Can they start hot and finish hot? That's going to be the biggest question, or better yet, just stay consistent. If they find that middle ground, they finally got the monkey off. It felt like a little bit of a monkey off their back last week against a really talented Washita Parish football team. This West Monroe team can be big. They can be physical. They can also dump it off to Trez Davis, who still is wearing a cast on his hand. It might not look like what he expected to coming into the season, but finding ways to get him the football, whether it's a reverse, whether it's a quick pass out in the flat, and just watching him take over and find a way. But this West Monroe defense has been, I said coming into the year, kind of an undergraded group, mostly Maddox Cobbs, Brody Thurman. Watching these guys tape coming into the season, do an excellent job. And they run a 4-2-5, but talking about Neville's defense, like I said, they'll go 3-4, they'll go 4-2-5, they'll go 4-3. Like, they're not afraid to mix things up depending on their matchup, depending on their scouting report and their situation. Question is, can Neville's offense continue purring? Because they got Zealand Young, who caught 2 touchdowns in the first quarter just a week ago. But you also have Ahmad Sledge, Desi Bird at receiver. I've really been enjoying watching running back Jarvis Blackston and Jamari and Robertson for this team. There's been so many games, guys. We've been basically watching this team all season. I'm really fascinated to see these two finally get to square off in what might be one of the most exciting games of the entire year.
Yeah, and there's no love lost between those two up there either. So they're going to be ready. Interesting, you mentioned with Coach Collins and that defense, they do a lot defensively. The structure of their defense seems like it changes from down to down, but they do it so fundamentally well. And there's not a lot of times where they're busted coverages or guys outside of their gap. And I'll be interested to see how they handle the running game for West Monroe. They're going to try to add an extra hat to the box. And when you do that, how are you going to defend Trez Davis? So that on the outside, that weapon for West Monroe is something that they don't always have, but they have it this year, and that can be a huge advantage for that offense.
I do want to go ahead and say follow, share, like, subscribe. And again, one of our guys out there, Cass, he gave you Z Cheese. He said hats off to getting Caden Bellard's name right this week, and of course I probably botched it there. But he also wanted to mention again. Look, this has been a day one guy for us. We appreciate you tuning in, and he said he's been supporting us and sharing us. He also said LCA's defense 102.5 tackles for loss this season and 31 sacks. So, I mean, that's just insanity and speaks to the level of play that this team has had. And guys, the competition that they played to still have those numbers, just unbelievable.
Yeah, it's crazy. It is crazy. Let's stay up in Monroe and go to Washita Christian Faraday, because this is one we started talking about Washita Christian a little bit more last week when they went up to not Oak Grove. Where'd they go last week?
Mangum.
They went to the Mangum Lance's Dragons and got a big victory. But Faraday went to Oak Grove last week, lost 13-6. This Faraday team is real. Like this is Washita Christian's going to have their hands full, but it's still funny reading and looking at these numbers. Their defense has given up 5 points a game, and if you can't score, they're not going to let you score. Faraday's going to have a hard time winning. But I will mention Faraday has Desmond Jefferson, wide receiver. He's committed to Southeastern, so I'm just going to guess he's going to be the best player on the field.
They also have a receiver named Collins. Patelin Collins, he's going to McNeese State, so I don't know. You got another Southland guy, but
Desmond's going to be beating him for the next 4 years of his life.
Yeah, there you go. But they got 3 good receivers, Robert Taylor as well. So they need to. It feels like one of the best matchups for this Washita Christian defense. They're giving up 5 points a game. Can't doubt these guys at all. But this Faraday team does bring the best passing attack that they've seen so far.
Guys, after watching this Washita Christian team play, and I got to go ahead and bring it up because I got to watch it. Guys, Mangum is one of the coolest one of the environments you'll see. They got the purple. You would have loved it, Lance. They got the purple smoke. They got the tunnel. They hit the lights off. Oh, man. I get in chills talking about it. Talk about an incredible environment.
Dude, those small town football teams up there do it right. It is.
Oh, I love it.
That is some fun stuff.
It's incredible to see. I wish I could have seen it in person, but look, their offense went in there and made plays. Luke Bedreen is an experienced quarterback running just a very multiple offense. Faraday's only given up 17 points a game, but this offense for Washita Christian scores 50.5 a game, and it has had running clock in 7 of their 8 games. Jude Turner does a great job at running back. Patrick Turpin is a two-way player. Is a big playmaker for them, along with Maddox Fitzhugh at receiver. They spread the ball around. They play solid defense. They don't have to do anything cute, and they find ways to win football games. And this Washita Christian team, if Faraday is going to come out and beat them, they're going to have to play A-plus football. This is a really good Washita Christian football team that we just haven't had an opportunity to talk about till recently, but they're getting their recognition, and rightfully so. They're a really impressive football team.
They are, and they're doing what you would expect them to do and what they're, quote unquote, supposed to do against the schedule that they play. Their finishing stretch, though, I would think that as a coaching staff, their coaching staff probably likes it this way, but their finishing stretch is Mangum, Faraday, Oak Grove. So they're playing the 3, the 3 best teams in their district the last 3 weeks of the season to get ready for the playoffs. And Faraday, their losses to Mangum by 8 and Oak Grove by 7. So this is a good football team, but Washita Christian just seems like they're a machine, and it's going to be really hard, especially at their place, to slow them down. We'll go down to 1A. We'll go Catholic Point Capee hosting Sacred Heart. Catholic Point Capee comes in at 6-2, 2-2 in district. Sacred Heart is 6-2 as well, 2-2 in district. These two teams, Catholic Point Capee gives up 26 points a game. Sacred Heart offensively is only scoring 31, more of a defensive team from the looks of it. So Sacred Heart's going to want to muddy it up, keep it low scoring. Catholic Point Capee averaging 41.2 points a game. They're going to want to turn it loose and open it up and go score a lot of points. Jude Morrison, their quarterback, and Michael Hart, their receiver, 2 really good players that I got to see. They played hand, and those 2 were extremely impressive on the field.
No, Jason's really high on Sacred Heart, so I'm gonna let him just go ahead and take this one.
That's his guys. That's his guys.
Look, I mean, the Trojans, man, and they got the best graphics in the state. If you're able to catch the broadcast, look, this Sacred Heart defense they've been tested. They went down to the wire against a really good Saint. They got outed by St. Edmund a bit, but I will say Catholic Point Capee lost in overtime just last week to the St. Edmund team. I think St. Edmund might be a team people are sleeping on a bit as well. But look, Sacred Heart's defense has been really impressive. They shut down Ouachita Catholic's defense and did an excellent job. Ashton Duo's a 150 tackle guy from a year ago. Jax Fontenot at receiver, along with Gavin Patton. They find ways to put points on the board for this offense. But the big question is, can this defense that gives up 11.6 points a game limit this Catholic Point Capee offense? Like Cass mentioned, Jude Morrison is a dude. He's a really impressive guy at quarterback. He's been their guy for quite some time. Can Sacred Heart find a way to limit Catholic Point Capee's offense? And can they slow the game down? They're going to have to slow this game down in order to win this football game. Find ways to move the football, retain possession, run the clock.
Yeah, I think that's going to be their recipe for success for sure. This is also a Sacred Heart team that comes in. They have a 3-0 victory, which is I believe that's impressive. Like if you could win a game 3-0, you're playing some really good defense. They beat Opelousas Catholic 3-0. Where y'all want to go anywhere else in particular next?
I think we should at least touch on Haynesville, though. Haynesville undefeated on the season with one of the best playmakers in the state in Isaiah Washington, LSU commit, Donnie Critton, running back, second-team All-State guy, really talented. Only giving up 8 points a game defensively, 52 points to scoring offensively. Jeremiah Evans is a 6-foot, 300-pound defensive lineman, a second-year starter as a sophomore for them, along with Andre Brooks, the senior, 6'6", 335. Guys, we're talking about a 1A football team. So what's the math? That's like 7'5" and 500 pounds, right? That's how it works. I don't make the rules. But they're playing a D'Arbin Woods team that Cass, we called that game last year, right? Yeah. We called that game last year when they took on Newman. Got their first playoff win just a year ago. Dalton Arbitron, the quarterback / safety, does a really good job running their option offense. They're going to be tested, and they're going to have to – what they're going to have to do? Slow down the game, play solid defense, and limit the possessions that this offense is going to get when you got a guy like Isaiah Washington running around the other side of the football field.
Yeah, if I remember right, too, that D'Arbin Woods team last year, they returned just about everyone, if I'm not mistaken.
They did lose. Right? They did lose a player. They did lose a player to Sterlington this year, and that was one of their big playmakers, Strohmile. So he's currently playing for their roster, but they did retain a lot of their players. So they return a lot of guys, 6-2 on the year. It's going to take a gigantic effort to win this game, though.
Yep.
I was going to go Belchase Shaw. This is one I've been looking forward to. Just this little stretch. I know the Belchase program really well. We know the Shaw program really well. Shaw certainly played a really tough schedule to get to this point at 6-2. So we know how battle tested they are, as well as just how incredible of a job their coaching staff does. Belchase is a very good football team. A lot of seniors did not play nearly the schedule that Shaw played. And so, it really, for this Belchase team, it was last week and this week. It's almost like their entire season, between last week. Went down fairly close one to St. Charles Catholic, and now they got another opportunity with Shaw. This is like a kind of low-key rivalry, Cass. It kind of reminds me, just being out there a little bit, reminds me of like our old Chalmette High, Holy Cross, Hannon, where, Belchase wants to keep all that talent at Belchase, but some of them leave and go to Shaw, and then they don't like each other because of it, And so I think there's kind of becoming a low-key rivalry out there, and Belchase really has everything in front of them. They want to compete for a district championship. This is their chance. They got to win this one. Last week they got off to a slow start versus St. Charles Catholic. I think that goes kind of towards that. They just haven't played a team even close to as good as St. Charles Catholic, but now they're a little bit more battle tested. They kind of have a better idea of where they stand, and I think they come out a little bit more prepared this week versus Shaw. So I'm looking forward to see how this one plays out.
Yeah, no doubt. That is a good comparison too, with kind of comparing it to the Holy Cross Chalmette in the same parish, both on the West Bank. A lot of all the kids, I'm sure, know each other. I'm interested to see this Belle Chase team. The district is, for all intents and purposes, it's a 3-team district with St. Charles, Shaw, and Belle Chase. How is Belle Chase going to handle losing last week to St. Charles and then coming up with Shaw? Like, they're going to be excited to play Shaw and be ready to play. Last year, same thing happened. They lose a close game to St. Charles. The following week, they go to Shaw and they lose 54-7. So can they get over the loss last week, put all their eggs in this basket, and go give their best performance of the season against this Shaw team?
I think it's going to come down to Savion Bartholomew up front. Look, he's a big play guy for this Belle Chase defense. He's going to have to put some pressure on this offense. So it's going to take a Herculean effort. But again, this Belle Chase team likes to run the football. So if they can maintain possession, if they can find a way to stay on the field and their defense can make some big plays, we'll see what happens. But again, it's a tall task. But again, Belle Chase, Shaw having that familiarity, we'll see. There's a little bit of extra juice in the tank for this.
Yep. I'll go quickly in the Lafayette area. Southside goes to Karen Crow, and that is two teams that are going to be kind of similar to what Southside and Acadiana were last week. Mirror images of each other. They want to be physical. They want to run the football. They do have some athletes, but Southside coming off of that, they'd be getting shut out in the second half against Acadiana, dropping the game by 3 points, turning right around to go play Karen Crow. How do they handle that week to week of facing Acadiana and having it not go your way to be able to turn it around and go play a tough Karen Crow team in the Crow Dome on the road?
Yeah, Chance Babineau, one of the best athletes, if not the best athlete in the state, can do it all on both sides of the football. Carson Gruzzi, a guy who might not get as much attention as he might deserve, sophomore quarterback for that team. They do like to run the football. They will go veer, but they can also spread it out. Mm-hmm. I mean, when you got a guy like Babineau, why wouldn't you? So they find a way to get the ball to their playmakers. But on the other side of the football, Southside going to probably try to make sure they're maintaining possession, giving the ball to Justin Williams, who's done a great job running the football for them. And Shamar Broussard on the defensive side going to have his work cut out for him, trying to slow down this rushing attack as well as getting back for slowing down this passing game.
Anywhere else? We hit them all. The slate of games this week is unbelievable.
I got two more I'd like to hit, unless you have any left.
I'm looking at Jesuit Rummel right now. Yep. That one I think is going to be a coin toss game. We know the only thing I feel like I do know about this game is going to probably be a very low scoring, very defensive matchup. It'll be interesting if Rummel continues to build off of the offensive adjustments that we saw last week against Holy Cross. Jesuit, they're dealing with a third-string quarterback, but he's been really good considering. He's sophomore, Sully Sullivan. He kind of had his coming-out party against Holy Cross, and so we'll see if they can kind of keep the ball rolling there. Those at this point, the power rankings become so crucial when you look at teams like that. Jesuit's 4-4. If they drop this one at 4-5, you start thinking about where they're going to land in the playoffs. Could be a difference in a somewhat easy first-round game and a really tough first-round game.
Only 23 points in the year for Jesuit. Laren Burks. Burks is one of the elite track athletes in the entire country, so he can stretch an offense. But to your point, a younger quarterback, can they find a way to stretch against a defense in Rummel that's been very dominant and seems to have found himself offensively behind that big physical offensive line, kind of going wildcat with Jaden Terrence and Corey and Hawkins. If they continue doing that, and they're going to find lanes. They're going to cut runs because Terrence is blazing speed.
So fast.
And look, that defense is top to bottom. Like at all levels of the field, they have guys. So it's be interesting to see if Carlin Kinchin, Gavin Cooper, and the rest of this defense, you can list all these guys really for this defense. Can they put the clamp on this Jesuit offense that might not have been as prolific, but definitely has guys that can bust some big plays?
I got one for you, Jason.
Shoot.
Terrebonne Thibodaux.
Yeah, I like that one too.
Terrebonne Thibodaux. Both teams 7-1, 3-1 in district. Terrebonne, Quincy Adams, their running back, and that offensive line. It's so impressive what they've done throughout the throughout the season. Thibodeau team that kind of quiet. Are they the quietest 7-1 in the state? This is a defense that's given up. Yeah, I mean, I didn't know it until we started doing this, but defense has given up 9 points a game. Thibodeau team that the program's starting to build back up. This is a big game for both of these teams.
This defense got to find. I mean, no question, right? You got to find a way to slow down this Terrebonne rushing attack. When you look across the line, Cass, 3 guys have scholarships up front on this offensive line for Terrebonne. Ted Bingham is Louisiana Tech commit. Chris Stewart is going to Southern, and Ryan Mosley, North Texas. So you got to find a way to limit Quincy Bear Adams. There you go, good nickname for y'all. Quincy Bear Adams. See if you can limit the Bears' rushing attack. And then 2 more I'd like to hit just so we have not talked about these teams, and I think they're worth mentioning. Guys, Kennedy is a team that we have not talked about at all. Kennedy is a team that has a bunch of athletes. Ronald Cash actually is a transfer from De La Salle just a year ago. Lance and I got to call his game against Holy Cross. He's a dynamic playmaker, probably can play on both sides of the football. He has some offers. Devin Duplessis is a triple jump district champ. He plays cornerback for this Kennedy football team, as well as Kenneth Chelsea, who is a really athletic running back, only 5'8", $160, but really can make some plays. De La Salle likes to run the football. Can they maintain? You look at their record, you see 3-5, but go look at the first 5 games of their schedule and tell me how many teams wouldn't be 0-5. So
it was only Central, Holy Cross, St. Paul, St. Charles, and Shaw.
Yeah, I would not be surprised if De La Salle won this game at all.
You can probably count the number of teams on one hand, maybe 2 hands that would not have 0-5 records after that 5-game slate. So I just wanted to make sure I give Kennedy some attention, and De La Salle kind of fighting their way back. But one more is Erath versus Kaplan. Erath, a team that's undefeated. Jack Landry, all-district, all-state, all-everything guy leading his team. 1,600 yards on the season with 12 touchdowns and 247 yards to top it off. This offense for Erath puts up 40 points a game. Defense gives up 9. Not a team we've gotten to talk a lot about. This Kaplan team going to try to threaten them, but this Erath team looking to make it an undefeated season and roll into the playoffs and try to make a nice run.
What are those
Jack
mascots?
Landry's a good baseball player.
Oh, you got
Jack
me.
Landry. The Bobcats. Erath Bobcats.
Thank you. Erath was the one I struggled with.
Kaplan Pirates.
Kaplan Pirates. Erath is the one. Erath is the one that threw me off. Bobcat always slips through. I think Douglas is a Bobcat. Erath is a Bobcat, and there's like a Eunice is a Bobcat.
What are their colors, Lance? You know their colors?
Erath, I'm going black and gold.
Mm-hmm. Kaplan's black and gold.
Well, yeah, I say
Erath is Erath is blue,
right?
Blue and white. Yeah, blue and white.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Erath is they've got a good baseball program. Their football program. They won a bunch of games last year too. That town really gets behind that school. Like that's a community school down there, not far from Lafayette.
Guys, one more. We didn't talk about this one. Let's glance on this one though. I mean, this is guys to clarify, guys. This is sitting all the way at the bottom of our slate. Ouachita Parish, Alexandria. At Ouachita Parish, can they shake off that last few game funk against an Alexandria team that seems to be rolling? After coming down from a 21-point deficit last week against
They're down 21-3 with like 6 minutes left in the second quarter.
I mean, and again, I think Alexandria probably feels like they should be undefeated. They probably feel like, look, we lost to West Monroe on a fluke. This is still one of the most dangerous teams in the state in Alexandria. Both sides of the football are really good, but Ouachita Parish has some offensive firepower, but they play in big play spurts. So can they drive the football is the question, but they can score from anywhere on the field.
No, that is a big time matchup, and I think any other week that might have led may have led the show. But Ouachita, after starting the season 5-0, they get Ruston, West Monroe, Neville back to back weeks, lose 3 straight. All 3 games were close, and they probably could have won or should have won any of the 3. Then they got Alexandria, and then they end with Pineville. So can Ouachita just stay with it? It's almost like let's just get out of district and figure out what we got to do in the playoffs. Can they stay with it to get to the end of the season? I think this Ash team might be real. Like I think they are. I know they were a little bit embarrassed about what happened to them in the Superdome last year. I think they might be doing everything they can to get back there and prove that was a fluke.
Yeah, Cason Sellers, Williams in the backfield, Alex Fontenot at receiver. They run that turbo offense really well. I think Washita Parish is going to have their hands full like they have. But even if Washita Parish drops their next 2 games in a row, guys, who wants to play them in the first round? Who's going to want to be like, oh, goody, I have Washita Parish to play in the first round of the playoffs? They're going to be a tough draw regardless where they fall.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. Good?
I think we got everything.
Y'all got who y'all got this week?
It's
Holy Cross Og Saturday.
And who do they play? It's
Og.
Og, yep. St. Og. So that'll be a fun one to watch. Cass's team.
No, for sure. That's my team. That's the closing. The closing stretch for Curtis is still, when you look at, just sit down and look at it, going Carr and Og back to back, and then you look at some of these District 2, 5A. It's crazy. Once we get to the playoffs, it's going to be a lot of fun stuff. There's going to be like 8 teams that are seeded 8, 9, 10, 11 that in maybe any other year in any other format would be like in the top 5. It's going to be interesting for sure.
Nature power ratings, man. Nature power ratings.
No, it's going to be fun. We're just going to be fun. We're going to have some cool weather too. I think it's supposed to get a little chilly this week. So good stuff. All right. Follow, like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. Follow us on X. You can watch us also on VSN on demand, both on demand and live. We appreciate you all following us along and having a good time with us. But man, this Friday night, not only is it Halloween, we're going to do some trick-or-treating, but it is going to be a great night of Louisiana high school football. We will see y'all again on Sunday to recap that and to start to kind of look ahead to week 10 as the season comes to a close and the playoffs are right around the corner. Thank you for watching Talking Ball, y'all. I am Cass, that's Lance and Jason, and we will see y'all on Sunday.